welcome back to this week's episode. I'm so excited that my friend Sequoia is joining me today. We're talking about something that isn't necessarily talked about like a ton in our industry, but we're talking about this a lot more right now, just with everything that's going on in our country. And so I'm really excited that Sequoia was able and interested to jump on with me. This is not something that I consider myself an expert in at all. So I really just want to like facilitate this conversation. And I know I'm going to be taking lots of notes and learning so much from you as we talk about what it looks like to diversify our clientele and how we can just create a really diverse and inclusive experience for our clients. So I'm really grateful that you're here, Sequoia. Before we dive into like the actual topic, can you just tell them a little bit more about your wedding planning company and your experience with it?
Yeah, so my name is Sequoia Jenkins. I am the owner of Jenkins & Co. Weddings in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have been planning weddings for, I feel like forever, but like officially the past 4 or 5 years. And diversifying clientele has like always been just like so important to me. I've always been passionate just about making everyone feel included and being inclusive, getting to know people from like different places. I grew up in New York City in Brooklyn, and so I grew up around a lot of diverse people and ethnicities, and so that's kind of how I was introduced to different cultures initially. And then I moved to the South, and it was like completely different. And then I was introduced to cultures that were different, but not as much. And so I've just always kind of just always been interested in like reaching out to learn more and just growing in that area of my life.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that you were originally from New York and New York City.
Yeah.
So that's already like a fun thing to learn about you.
Yay!
Okay, well then let's just talk then. Let's just go like dive right into it. So in terms of diversifying our clientele, I guess what do you feel like is like just like your number one tip, like just a big thing that like we need to be thinking about and considerate of when we want to market to somebody that doesn't look like us, like a diverse population?
I think that the first thing that we need to think about is like, what does our everyday life look like? I know that for me and just being in the creative industry, when we talk about like our ideal client avatar, we think about like stores and just different like personal lifestyle things. And I think that when we're wanting to diversify, we have to think about, a lot of us have personal brands, right? People are looking at us like what we're doing on the weekends, where we shop and stuff like that. And so it's like, what does your personal life look like? Are you reaching out to just learn about different cultures? Like what TV shows do you watch? I know for me, sometimes I post like on my Instagram, just like different types of foods that I eat. And so like, or that I'm trying, like if I'm trying a new restaurant with a friend that's like, maybe like an Ethiopian restaurant or just different things that just like show people, oh, this person is like open to me. Like if I'm different, this person will be open to me. They'll be willing to accept me. Because I always think about that. Have you ever been like the new kid in school?
Yeah.
And like you're in the cafeteria in the lunchroom and you're just like, where do I sit? Right? Nobody's never necessarily been mean to you or like, but like you just need to know that people are like, hey, like you can sit here, like we're open to you.
Yeah.
And so I think when you just really look and like self-reflect on your everyday life and you realize like, hey, maybe I could try new foods and like post that. Maybe I could go to different cities and post that, or just like maybe I could watch a TV show that has people that look different than me, and just post that. You know what I mean? Showing people that you're open, you're welcome, like you love everyone.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that that's just such like an intentional thing. But like you said, like we're doing because our heart's desire is to do that, right? Not so much like a performative, like I need to do like X, Y, and Z. It's just saying like our brands for most of us are really personal, and we're going to relate to somebody that does seem like us because like you said, like the kid in the cafeteria, like I've been that girl, like walking in. Sorry, there's a really loud truck that just went by. I'll have Matt like clip that. So I've been that girl in the cafeteria that, just walks in and then looks and is wondering like, where do I sit? Like who looks like me? And who seems to like wear clothes that are similar to mine, or like we just feel more accepted and understood like in that atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So smart. Do you feel like it's helpful, or I just love your overall opinion to, if we're looking to diversify our clientele, should we think about like imagery that we're utilizing that is showcasing like different skin tones, different ethnicities, like that sort of thing? Or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to do an inventory like quarterly of my brand and just say to myself and look at my brand, like my website, my Instagram, and just look and see like, am I posting different images of different people? Because again, like when people look at your brand, like just like a quick glance, they're gonna see like what you've been posting recently, right? And so I think that sometimes because we want to be loving. We don't want to like seem like we're like tokenizing or just doing this for show. Like we don't just want to be like, okay, I'm gonna post this picture. But also too, we do have to still be intentional because like say if you live in an area that just isn't really that diverse, right? So you may not have that many diverse clients. You have to do that intentional, posting of people who look differently, just so that people know, like, okay, she is welcoming. Because again, people are making like snap judgments, which
Yeah.
isn't always a good thing, but it is just the way that we are, just in reality. They're just looking at you and they're just like, oh, okay, well maybe she might not like me. Just maybe she just doesn't have experience with this, and so you definitely want to be like posting people that look different. um, I'm even trying to do that, even just like again in my personal life with my daughter, like buying her dolls of people that look different, even when it comes to like disabilities, not just skin color, but like just differences so that she can know like I need to be kind to everyone.
Yeah, I love
So,
that so much. Matt and I have been talking a lot about like just not being afraid, right? Because like you said,
mhm.
like, I mean, people are going to judge. And there's so many different perspectives and so many different stories and backgrounds that people are bringing to the table when they're looking at things online. So for us, it's just been like, okay, but what do we want to do in our heart? Like we're trying to be intentional and we're trying to show our heart here. So let's work from that lens versus feeling like, well, I have to do this to show them this, or I don't want people to think this, so I don't want to do that. Like we just want to love everyone. We just, you know what I mean? We just want to like show that. And you mentioned the word like tokenism, and I feel like that's something that I've seen pop up a lot in just with like the white industry, like thinking like, how can we do this to not feel like we are tokenizing? So do you have any like specific thoughts on that? Like whether it's like asking, working with vendors, like not wanting someone to feel tokenized when we reach out to a vendor, not
Mhm.
wanting someone to feel tokenized like a model for a styled shoot, or, I don't know, any of those things that you could address.
Yeah, so I think that when you start to like expand your reach, so like following people who don't look like you and interacting, so like not just, right now, of course, the climate is just so crazy and everybody is really doing a lot of self-reflecting. And so you definitely probably don't want to reach out like right now,
Right.
but definitely like start looking, just do an inventory. I do a lot of like personal inventory, looking at my Instagram. Okay, who am I following? Do these people look like me? Am I actually being intentional with who I'm following? Who am I DMing? Who am I saying, hey, I love your work? And so if you start to kind of change that up a little bit over time, you'll notice that you start to build genuine relationships with people who don't look like you. And then people will actually not feel like you're just doing it just because of the climate or just because you want to have like one person that might be of a different race or ethnicity. Like when you actually start to build those genuine relationships, maybe having coffee and then like I've had coffee with, well, actually it's wine. I've had wine with so many people who have like DM'd me and like we actually become friends. I think that sometimes people feel tokenized because they might feel like, well, maybe this person really doesn't want to be my friend. Maybe they just want me to be on their Instagram, for show. And you don't have to be friends with everybody, right? But like maybe take an inventory of like how many friends, like real friends, do I have that don't look like me, right? And then like make some friends. Like I know when it comes to like, trying to get to a certain income level and different things like that, there's tips of like the 5 people that you surround yourself with, that's how you grow. And so like if you want to grow with diversity, you've got to actually really do the work and that it's going to take. And that includes like just building genuine friendships, just
Right.
following people and talking to them.
Right, right. And it's so true because like I don't know your full story. I don't know a lot of the stories of women I follow online, regardless of their skin color. Like I know my story, right?
Right.
But I want to get to know their stories. And
Yeah.
I saw this quote pop up a couple times. I've had some friends sharing it on Insta story talking about you can't walk a mile in someone's shoes, but you can like walk beside them. Like you can say
Mhm.
like let me hear what it was like to walk in your shoes. And I feel like that's just such a good reminder for us, or outside of business, like at any point in our life, to want to do that and to want to care. But then when our businesses, since that's, what we're like honing in on right now, to really do that with other vendors, other types of creatives that we want to connect with. Question to like kind of flip the script, I guess, a tiny bit. I was thinking about this as you were talking about tokenism. Do you have any advice for somebody who maybe they feel tokenized? Maybe they felt that way, or have you felt that way? Now, I know that can be super sensitive, and I don't want to make you talk about something you don't want to talk about, but I don't know if you have any advice for them on like how to either handle that situation or what to do when they have that mindset.
I think for me, I love talking, obviously. And sometimes that can be like a really hard conversation, right? But like, I think for me, at the end of it, my goal is to understand the other person. And so I think I feel like I probably felt tokenized at some time or another, but I think it's more of like, do I really know this person's motives? And if I don't, before I assume that it's negative, how about I just talk to them? How about, and I actually had this situation with one of my vendor friends who I'm really, really close with, and she felt like a particular person was doing a call and it kind of seemed like a tokenism type of thing, and she wasn't sure if she should sign up. And I was like, hey, I think you should sign up, because maybe you'll get to have one-on-one time with this person and you can really talk to them and be like, hey, like, why are you doing this? What are you trying to get out of this? Because at the end of the day, if somebody is reaching out to try to diversify themselves, it may seem like tokenism because maybe they haven't been diverse before, but like maybe the heart is like they realize that and they really want to grow. And how else are you going to grow besides calling other people to help you?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think if anyone's ever in that space, just really try to have a conversation with that person and just really talk to them and just find their heart and just see like, hey, are you doing this because you really truly want to grow? Or are you doing this because, you just want to tokenize, or you just want to get, kudos? I think communication is just really important. We have to be able to talk. We have to be able to have those hard conversations where it might get a little, but at the end, maybe we'll have a common understanding, and maybe we'll cry, and maybe we'll, hug, and maybe we'll just understand each other better.
No, I love that. It's uncomfortable because we're out of our comfort zone and we're having to either bring up something that makes us feel like I'm not sure how to feel, or like have this like potentially weird conversation, but like you said, like overly communicating because you don't know someone's motives on either side of that. So that's so good. That's such good advice. So looping back then to just like diversifying our clientele, do you have any additional advice or any additional feedback you can give to somebody who is, again, like just trying to not tokenize, but truly be intentional about marketing to clients that don't necessarily like look like them, aren't from the same backgrounds as them, and things like that?
Yeah, so definitely. My first tip would be definitely to connect with other vendors who don't look like you, because sometimes the quickest way or the easiest way to kind of bring in people who look differently so that you can start to use their photos and things to market is to just work with people who don't look like you. Just like, for style shoots, like the easiest way to kind of get into a venue is to be like, hey, I want to work with you. What capacity can we do that in? And so finding photographers or finding DJs or just different people who are already in the industry, who already have a diverse portfolio, to kind of just say, hey, like I would love to partner with you, whatever that may look like. Maybe it's just that, you just start to talk to some of their clients. Maybe they may not book you initially or immediately, but definitely just reaching out to other vendors who don't look like you, and not only just to get their clients, but to get to know them, to get to know some of the things that they do, some of their, things that they do to market to people who have diverse backgrounds. The second point, we talked about it already, but I think it's just so important with our personal brands that we are showing things that we are doing that is showing that we're trying to grow. And so it may not be something that's wedding related or whatever industry you're in. It may just be, again, you trying different restaurants so that people are like, oh, she is really like, oh, she's cool. I might want to hang out with her because or maybe you're showing a show that, there are certain shows that people watch that they always talk about on Instagram. Maybe you're showing a show that you just recently found that, exposed you to something new in a different culture. Showing people that you are not just, doing the status quo things, and you know what I mean? Like just really showing people you as a person and your growth.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. I'm sure even like books that we're reading too, or just again,
Yes.
like is that we're just like being open-minded and
Yes.
appreciative and interested in like the community and the world around us.
Yes, books that we're reading that have nothing to do with like the wedding industry or just diversity, just showcasing that. So that I think that, so I had one bride that reached out to me one day, and she honestly, she was Black, but she was from Africa, from the Congo.
Okay.
And she was like, it was so hard for her to feel comfortable with the planner because people, she just didn't know that people would be open to her because there's like different things at the weddings that they do differently. And so she had seen that I had done like some Jewish weddings and like an Indian wedding. And she was like, oh, this person is gonna like be open to learning about me. And she felt comfortable. So I think it's just like when you show people over time that you are comfortable in other spaces that don't just look like you, that's what helps to build up that clientele. They'll remember you. They'll be like, oh, that girl, like she is open. She will listen to me.
Yeah.
People just want to feel heard, I feel like.
Absolutely. And they want to feel heard, they want to feel accepted like in that space so that they know like they're like for that bride, like her situation is obviously unique, like her culture is unique.
Yeah.
And she wants to know that the vendor she's working with will appreciate that and not try to like do the square hole or like round peg square hole situation. It's like don't get into something that doesn't work. Like let's just embrace like her culture and the traditions that she wants to create like with her wedding day.
Yeah, and at the time I hadn't ever done like an African wedding, but like I had done other ones, and she was like, I just feel like you would try to understand, which obviously I would. And I feel like we all would, right? But people don't know that unless they've seen you do something that shows them like, okay, she's not just a girl that just wants people that are like her. She's open.
Right. I also feel like specifically like because niching down to like wedding industry, since I know that's very much your area of expertise. I know for me, not so much anymore because of just how my wedding planning business has shifted. But when I first started, it was very referral heavy. So I got one bride, and then I would have bridesmaids or sisters, and then and I could almost like connect all of my clients, or at least the majority of my clients in that those first few years. So for me, I also think about that with diversifying, like once you start to have that, hopefully you're treating them so well and you're serving them and they love you, and then they're going to keep telling their friends who are likely diverse,
yes.
And then now it's like you've started, like it's like it takes potentially maybe more work to get those first few, just like in any clientele situation. But then once you do and you're just loving them all and treating them well, they're going to want to tell their friends and their sisters and their bridesmaids and all that about you. So then hopefully you would then continue to have diverse clientele.
Yes, that's exactly how it works. Like that's exactly how it's been for me. Again, like I said, I didn't have a quote unquote African wedding at the time, but like she had saw me doing some things, she had heard from other people, so she was like, okay, so that is that part.
It was like light bulb went off. I was like, wait, I feel like it would be similar to this. Which is, I hope that is encouraging to people who maybe don't have a lot of diversity in their background. Maybe they just didn't grow up in an area. Like I'm one of those. Like I didn't grow up in an area that was very diverse. So my close friends, like my close sphere, is not very diverse. And so it can feel really uncomfortable. We talked about like it can feel uncomfortable. You don't want to tokenize. You want to show your heart. So it can feel weird to like step out of that comfort zone, but it's just like small steps. Like once we start doing it and once we really start making those connections from a true place, like there is then like marketing that helps because you're serving those people and then hopefully continuing to serve more of the people that you want to serve.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it just opens your heart so much when you actually like branch out. You learn so much. You realize like so many amazing, we all know there's good people out there, but like when you truly open your heart and like invite them in, you just get so many more blessings that come back to you, right? You learn so much more. You become, I feel like, a better person. I feel like I've become a better person from that, like just learning people's stories. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, wow, I would have never known that just like looking at your Instagram or.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. This has been so helpful. Like I've said before, I'm going to take all the notes, and it has. I've been like mentally taking notes while we've been talking. Any last things, any last tips or anything else that you feel like needs to be said around diversifying your clientele, or ways that like we can just continue to do that better?
I think just ask questions. I know right now we're in like a crazy climate, and some people are like, don't ask me questions. Do ask. If you have a question, you can ask me. Ask questions, right? Really talk to people, just communicate. Like, and sometimes off social media, like go get a glass of wine when we're not in COVID. Like, just talk to people. Like, just get to know people, ask questions, share your heart. Because I really truly feel like that's where the work really needs to be done. And sometimes it's hard to do that online. It's hard to share your heart. You know, there's only but so much you can say in a DM, right?
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine with someone and sit down and talk to them and ask them questions, and just be open. Be open.
Yeah. So, so I can't talk. Such a good advice. Get off of the squares and like into real life with this for a little bit, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to make sure that we link your Instagram and your website. So if people want to connect with you further, I know you've mentioned like you're willing to like, have carry on this conversation with people like one-on-one. So I'll link that. And I just really appreciate you doing this, Sequoia, and like taking the time. I know there is just a lot going on. So I appreciate you being open to kind of being an open book for us about this to help us as business owners like process through how we can be more intentional about this and what this can tangibly look like in our business moving forward. Because these are things like we can start doing right now. Like we don't have to wait to wait till 2021 or like wait till COVID's over. Like we can start doing this stuff right now, which I am action oriented, so I love that. I'm like, give me the list and let me show you. So yeah, this has been really great, and I just appreciate you sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Like I said, if anybody has questions, you can DM me. I love to talk. So all the questions, and I'm a researcher too. So like if I say something and then I find something else out, I'll be like, in this part, do this too. So thank you so much, Kat.
Thank you so much, Sequoia. And y'all, thank you for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. Check out the links in the description, and I will see you guys back for our next coffee chat.